Dricus du Plessis, baie dankie. Ek waardeer dit. Luister, ek is 'n groot fan. Ek is ook baie trots, ou. Ons loop al 'n lang pad vanaf jou UFC debut tot by die UFC. Ek is net trots. En wat jy op die oomblik doen vir MMA, my ou, dis wonderlik. En ek wil net sê baie dankie en mooi man. Dis fantasties hoor.
Ja, nee, baie dankie. So lekker om hier te wees en ek het nog nie gaan sê jy is trots want dis vir die Du Plessis.
Ons kan dit ook sê, luister. Dis 'n goeie fun hoor.
Nee, presies wat jy sê. Jy was daar gewees van my heel eerste UFC fight, UFC 21.
Ja.
Dit was UFC 21 gewees. Ek dink dit was en ek onthou met my maat verjaar. So dit was in Julie gewees. Ek dink dit was die 21st of July ook. 23rd of July. 2013.
Ja, yes.
So, dit is 10 jaar terug.
10 jaar terug.
10 jaar terug
En kyk nou waar jy is.
Ek bedoel, nou.
Ek wil net sê dat dit was 'n eer vir my om deel te wees daarvan. Al het ek dit was altyd van die kant af, maar en jy's ook 'n fantastiese mens. So cheers man, baie dankie. Hoop jy geniet die koffie daar.
Die koffie is
ja.
ongelooflik lekker en ja, geen so ek sê dit is 'n baie interessante ding wat jy sê dat hoe ons vriende geword deur die sport. Die vriende wat ek het, 90% van my vriendekring en ek kan hulle noem my familie, is deur hierdie sport. Vriende ou soos Dirk Steenkamp wat saam met jou gekommenteer het, as hy mis nie 'n fight nie. Hy's elke fight daar.
Hy is op die volgende UFC daar.
Hy's daar, hy was een voor dit daar, ek en hy het beste vriende geword deur hierdie sport. Hy was ook saam met jou kommentator en toe hy Amerika toe trek en ek staan en dis ons vriende geword het. Ou soos Etienne Reinick, Garrett wat nou saam met julle kommentaar
Soldier Boy.
Ons is grootste enemies gewees dalk in die historie van die UFC en nou is ons net so, hy help my prepare vir my fight, ons oefen elke week saam, hy help my waar hy kan en gee ook sy input as 'n ou wat al klaar daar was. Ek meen Garrett het 5 fights gehad in die UFC. Hy het al alles gesien, hy het die experience en dit is 'n ou by wie ek net kan leer en nou help ons mekaar om Suid-Afrika se vir my op te val en wys jy net hoe die sport werk is all business in die ring is, maar buite is dit 'n family.
Ek gaan nou 'n bietjie Engels praat, jammer.
Ja, 100.
Ek wil graag meer Afrikaans, ek moet eintlik verbeter. Ek weet ek moet bietjie meer praat, maar the incredible thing for me now is you've got guys around you. You've got this circle of trust. We know Coach Monet is like almost a father figure to you.
Absolutely.
You've got an incredible team at CIT. You've evolved into this, and I'm going to say this again, an apex predator because of the decisions you've made along the way. And I know the EFC, as you say, 10 years ago started that, but you're now in a position where you are headlining, I mean, you're on course for a middleweight world title at the Ultimate Fighting Championship, which is the biggest promotion in the world.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's something I'm more proud of being able to do what I do with what I started with, the same as I did in the EFC. And I always said that we as a team will do it. We will shock the world. We will show the world. And it makes me more proud to be a South African residing, training out of South Africa with my team at CIT, with my head coach, Monet Visser. Yes, we added coaches as we go bigger, as we get more professional. And I've trained all over the world. And let me tell you, CIT is probably one of the most professional teams, sporting units in the world. We try to be as professional as we can when it comes to training, sleeping, everything, and as a team create this culture of we are not a small team in South Africa. Yes, we are from a small town, small gym as we started. But when it comes to the training, when it comes to MMA, we want to be seen as one of the best in the world, and that's how we approach it.
I think, with all due respect to those that have laid the foundation, if you think of the Fight Fit militias, you've got brothers in arms that are sort of finding their feet. CIT is the premier MMA gym on the continent right now, and the results speak for themselves, and the athletes speak for themselves.
Yes, absolutely, and thank you for saying that. It's something that we've strived. Obviously, we in CIT and FFM had massive it's always been such a, when we fought, I mean, I fought 6 or 7 of the FM guys. I had one loss, and that was against Gareth. I hope he's listening to this, because I make him pay for it every chance that I get. If he's not looking, I'm trying to hit him. I make him pay. Gareth, he's a retired fighter. I don't know if he's 100% retired, but listen, whenever we go, I try to get him back for that loss. But and it's always been a great competition. We always brought out the best in each other, and they had the first UFC fighters out of South Africa, but CIT has definitely been more successful. In like you said, respect to everybody that laid the foundation, the Gareth McClellans, Ruan Potts, all those guys that went there as pioneers gave us the opportunity to do what we do. And at CIT, it didn't just happen overnight. We had Leon Maynard, Michiel Opperman, for those who, the hardcore fans. The legends of the game, the guys that would fight 3-4 times on a night before EFC days. And those were my mentors. Those are the guys that I looked up to, that I trained, and that I learned from. And now we have guys that I brought up like that, who I mentored, like Cameron Simon. And you can just see the difference. The training under these professional circumstances back then, we would train as hard as we possibly can, definitely overtraining, killing your body. And we had to learn so fast, because we didn't have, in America, the sport's so old, so they've already known this, they have this figured out. MMA is a very big sport there. When I started at EFC, I mean, EFC wasn't even on SuperSport. It wasn't on any major channels.
You had to go to a Stekkenny court to watch it with your popcorn.
Exactly.
Or stream it on a dodgy internet connection.
it was, and look at where it is now, where MMA, SuperSport invested. It's so big in South Africa now that SuperSport invested in buying the rights to show the UFC, and I think it's booming. And that just made the sport bigger. Myself, Cameron, and all the guys that, ever since the UFC joined, now they don't just watch us anymore. They watch UFC as a whole, and that is, at the end of the day, what I love to see is the sport grow.
I've got to ask you, you said a proud South African, a proud African. Is there an additional pressure on you? Because when you walk out, and we'll have a look at some, Tyler's got a few of your fights, and thanks to SuperSport and to the UFC for allowing us to show them. But I've noticed the South African flag is always draped over your shoulder after a fight. You're always giving a shout out to people back home. Is there a bit of added pressure now, considering you 4-0, undefeated in the UFC, to continue flying that flag? Because it's a tough sport. There's huge pressure, and your opponents are getting tougher with each bloody card.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the opportunity to be able to lift that flag on that stage is pressure enough. And people talk about the pressure of representing South Africa. That pressure makes me perform. I love the pressure, and I don't see it as you have the responsibility. Of course it is a responsibility, but I see it as a privilege. I have the privilege to be able to wear that flag on that stage. And obviously, in the past 2 fights, they've banned any flags of any sort, so we're not allowed to wear the flag anymore. That sucks, but the only thing that I can do is make it known that I am the only real African in the UFC. If you consider, yes, there's a lot of African-born fighters in the UFC, but who trains out of Africa? Myself and Cameron, we are the only 2 guys that train out of Africa, that fight, that are South African-born, African-raised. We have never, ever been trained by anything else. The air we breathe is African air. Yes, there's our guys, champions like Usman, like Izzy. They were all born here, but they don't breathe the air. They don't face the adversity we face as South Africans, as Africans, and they don't have the privileges we have. They don't have this beautiful continent that we have, and that's why I always say, and I get a lot of shit for it, I think, when I say I'm the only African. But I think myself and Cameron, we truly are, because we are the only guys residing here, and it's not only a responsibility to wear that flag on that stage. It's a massive privilege. And to come back to the question of pressure, yes, there's a lot of pressure, but as the fights get bigger, the pressure doesn't get bigger for me. I always tell people my debut fight was as stressful as my last fight, because at the end of the day, if you lose a fight, let's say I lost the fight to Brendan Lazar, which probably wouldn't have happened. But in MMA, we've seen this. The bigger underdog, the crazier
Look
it
at
gets.
the Soldier Boy.
I mean, look at that.
No ways.
Exactly. I mean, nobody would have
ways.
ever guessed that. There's this is the sport. If you look at Leon Edwards Usman, if you look at that fight, like it was a runaway fight, and boom. But if I lost that fight, I would have never gotten the opportunity to fight in the UFC.
Yeah.
Because after that fight, I would have had to work for at least 4 more fights. So that would have been 1 or 2 more years to prove myself. So that fight, equally as important as fighting Darren Till in my last fight. Yes, the stage is bigger, more eyes. And people generally think that is the pressure, and that is pressure. The opponents do get better, but so do I. So the pressure for me of winning, every fight is important as the next one. Fighting for the belt, if I didn't win Darren Till, I would never get the opportunity to fight for the belt. So every fight is equally as important, well, to me at least.
Let's talk about your UFC debut. Tyler, if you can just pull that up. Let's have a look here at the screen. Before we roll, I'll just hold on there, Tyler. Dricus, tell us, short notice, Fight Island, COVID, not the best scenario. How were the nerves going into this one?
So big thing. I always tell people that this is the biggest opportunity of my life. So I was luckily, when COVID hit, they said we have 2 or 3 days before the hard lockdown starts. There's 6 weeks. It was 6 weeks at the end of the day, where it was like everybody was just at home. And I'd phoned Cameron. I was like, we do not have the opportunity. We don't have the luxury of sitting around, because that's what's going to happen. I immediately thought, okay, what's going to happen now is everybody's going to be like, oh, can't train. Gyms are closed, everything. Yeah. I went to the gym. I phoned Cameron. I phoned a few of the teammates. I said, move into my house for the next, because it was only 3 weeks at first and then went 6 weeks. Move into my house, and we went to the gym, got some mats, got the air bikes, got kettlebells, everything we needed, moved them into my garage, and I had 3 or 4 teammates move in. And we lived there for 6 weeks, and we basically had one big training camp while we were there. I mean, that was all we could do, is drink beers and train. So, and that is what we did. So we didn't have any fights lined up. Obviously, we knew there was no fights going to happen. And I just had this feeling in me like something's going to happen. And at that stage, I would have done anything to get into the UFC, because I was a 3-time world champion.
How close were you? They were obviously keeping an eye on you.
I think so. I just signed with my agency, but the UFC just said, because PFL made me a big offer. Quite a few people made me a big offer to fight in the PFL season, but for light heavyweights, and I said no. Well, I wanted to say yes because that's the they didn't have a middletweight series, and I said cool, that because you fight like 4 times in 6 weeks or something like that.
Big dollars.
And I said, well, the money is let's do it, because the UFC simply said we do not have place for you right now, and I was like, I'm going to go for the money then, because I've never done this for the money. And the UFC and PFL said if you end up in the top 4. At first, I was like, I'm not going to compete with the light heavyweights. Then I trained in America. I was in America, by the way, with this. And I trained with a guy that finished second the season before, the light heavyweight guy. And we trained together, and I was just mauling this guy.
Smoking him.
And I was like, wow, now it's a different tune.
Yeah.
This was a guy that used to fight at middleweight, and now, because of the season, the fights are so regular that, and I was like, ooh, I can do this. Let's do it. And they have the opportunity to sign you for the next year if you end up in the top 4. And UFC said to my agents, don't let him do that. So they were looking, but there was just no space. And they said he's on a short list. If somebody gets injured, we'll give him a shot. So I had to say no to a lot of money.
That's life-changing money.
Yeah, life-changing. I could have retired after that, just 4 fights.
Because the rand is...
Yeah, exactly. I would have made crazy money. And I just said, and the UFC went like, if somebody gets injured, we'll give you a shot eventually. And I was like, so you're going on a...
tough,
and
man.
I phoned my dad, I phoned everybody, and I was like, what should I do? And my dad was like, I think you should take the money. I think go for the money.
Yeah.
Go for it. I mean, there's always the UFC is still going to stay. You're still young. And when I just got that message, I just said, I don't care about the money. I don't care about being the champion in PFL. I care about being the UFC champion, and the money will be there. The money will come if you just follow your dreams and do what you got to do. And so what if I don't make the money? This is not why I started this.
Yeah.
And the UFC phone, this was only 8 months after that situation. So I was just like believing the UFC that they would call, and they phoned me the first day, they phoned me. The gym open, and we were like, okay, cool, let's go to the gym. Let's just a few of us open up the gym, get in there, and okay, nobody sees us. And so we've been in lockdown then for 5 weeks. And they said, my agents, I just see they phoned me. I'm like, why would they phone me this time of day 3-4 times in a row, both of them? And I answered and they said, listen, will you fight? They asked me, how's your weight? And I was like, my weight's great. My weight was not great. I was just
what are you going to say? Of course you're not going to say.
I said, no, my weight was amazing. And they're like, will you take a fight? I'm like, where? And they said, no, UFC. And I said, what? And they said, yeah, but very short notice. I said, cool. Do I have time to go pack my stuff? Like, I'll fly out. I'm thinking I'm flying out today.
Yeah.
This is a Monday or Tuesday. They said, no, listen, you're flying out on Thursday. So we had 10 days notice. I'm like, okay, I thought I had to fight that weekend.
Jeez.
And I'm so crazy. They said, okay, there's a few guys that put their hand up to step in. So the UFC, it's not you definitely, but we'll let you know as soon as we can. And they let me know about a few hours later, you got the fight. And I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
This finally got that shot. And I'm like, I have to cut 10 kilos in 10 days.
So what did you do?
No, not even more. 11 kilos in 10 days.
So how do you drop that?
I mean, I immediately, obviously, the diet and
Yeah, sure.
no more beers. And definitely the water cut was a big one for for that fight. That was probably one. And then the other thing is thinking to myself, this is the biggest opportunity of my whole career.
Absolutely.
By far. And this is the least prepared I've ever been for a fight in my life. I've never gone into a fight. That's the big reason when I go with where my confidence comes from is I know I put in all the work. I'm always so prepared for whatever comes. And in this fight, I didn't have that confidence. I was like, I know I trained every day, but I didn't train for a fight.
Sure.
It was different. My sparring wasn't on par. I mean, we grappled every day and we trained and we did our fitness and stuff, but not for a fight camp.
Yeah.
So
Let
I just
alone
told
a
myself,
UFC opportunity.
yes, and I just told myself, listen, I might feel unprepared, but for this fight, but I've been preparing for this fight for the last 10 years. Since I was 15, 16 years old, this is what I've been preparing for. And it will pay off. It will pay off. And I didn't even think about it. I was like, I'll take all of this in when I sign my contract. I'll enjoy the moment of signing for the UFC.
Yeah.
I don't have time to think about that right now. Right now, I have to think about fight. So I'll celebrate all that after the fight.
Yeah.
And the next day, I immediately let Monet know, listen, head coach,
It's on.
I got the fight. And he said, okay, who are we fighting? And I said, I don't know. I didn't even ask who's the opponent. I completely forgot to ask who the opponent is that I'm fighting. I just said yes to everything.
Let's go.
And he was ranked number 28 at that stage. And that gave me a massive jump because he was an 8-fight. I think he had 8 fights in the UFC. Never been finished. So for me, I've finished every single fight I've been in. He's never been finished. And now I'm like, this is just great. Going with a guy that most of his fights go to decision. He's never been finished. Now I go there with not the cardio that I want, and I have to go and try and finish this guy. So, I mean, there was a lot of good things to take away to see that when the moment arises, I can step up to the plate. And that was and you can see in the beginning of this fight that how it took me a while to find my calmness.
You looked very excited.
Very excited. And obviously fighting UFC, and this is the first time in my life that there's no crowd. So I'm like, what's going on?
That must have been bizarre.
And this guy obviously took a very good advantage. He's a veteran. He took very good advantage, and he was just on me immediately. Caught me with a big kick. So the moment was big, and it took me about 2 minutes to settle down, and then I figure out, okay, you have to do what you got to do. It was almost like I was on the defensive the whole first 2 minutes, and then
Tyler, let's roll that. Let's just have a look here at the end. Dricus, you can have a sip there. But yeah, it's when you watch it now, that sucks for him. When you watch it now, you know, that must have been a huge moment for you because firstly, it's your UFC debut. There's no crowd. You haven't got the preparation in because of the short notice. But man, oh man, that's a W in the UFC.
Yeah, it looks like it. I feel I can remember the moment so exactly. Like I wanted to tell that guy that exact sentence. Hey man, this is my first fight in the UFC, and I didn't even have time. I wanted to tell that guy, and that guy's just like, stand there. You have to stand there. He doesn't care.
Yeah,
but for me, it was probably one of the greatest moments of my whole life. Is finally Dana White being there.
That's mad, eh?
I didn't even tell him I wanted bonus money. I just said thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, it changed my whole life. It changed everything. To go out there and get that first round knockout, that is even better.
But then you started making knockouts a common thing.
Yes,
I mean, this must have been a sweet one for you, because I don't think a lot of people, when they saw Giles du Plessis and they were based on your first fight, they were like, oh, this guy, that was the word in the media, and the American press were like, Giles has got this. But going into this fight, I think you were properly conditioned.
Yes.
You were fully prepared, and you had an idea of what the UFC was about.
What happened to this fight at first, I think this fight was in July. Yeah, it was the 10th of July of 2021.
I'll get the date now for you.
Yeah, it was International Fight Week, 10th
got it.
of July.
Not a bad card, eh?
It was an amazing card.
McGregor.
McGregor 3. And, the first time I went to watch UFC was Conor versus Cowboy, and that was the first time I was in the United States to go watch an event live, and I knew I had to be there.
Yeah.
It felt amazing. So we were set to fight in April. It was also a big card, but then my visa got declined because of COVID. We were on the red list as a country, and it sucks that I only found out a week before the fight that we're not going. So I did the whole preparation, always started cutting weight, but that's part of the game. That's part of the game. And luckily, this fight, I wanted this fight because he was on a 4-fight win streak.
Yeah.
And he was really doing great things. And one thing I realized why my stand-up has been shown more in the UFC is a lot of times when I fought in the smaller promotion like EFC, the guys would you had a better chance on the ground because there's time to think. It's not a one shot and it's over. So guys would get nervous, or the pressure would be too much and it would end up in a clinch or on the ground. And even for me, and in the UFC, guys aren't scared of who they fight. Guys aren't necessarily. I'm fighting Dricus. When I was in the UFC, I was champion for 5 or 6 years.
Dominant.
And double division champion. So people were like, I'm fighting Dricus. I probably should, let's clinch it up. And then the fight would just go from there. And the UFC, the guys, everybody can strike, everybody can wrestle. To get the guy to the ground is not that easy. So striking is more engaging, if you will.
Yeah.
Say, when UFC guys are more, I would say the guys are a little bit more hesitant in like engaging in the striking. Where in the UFC, the guys are engaging, and that gives me the opportunity to get the proper stand-up in. And, being a massive Conor McGregor fan and what he's done for the sport, this was probably one of the coolest moments of my life, being able to meet him and fight on that card, and ultimately and getting a performance bonus on that card.
Which
that
is amazing.
That is.
Here we go. I mean, it was like I think the whole of South Africa went mad at that moment.
It happened so fast because fighting him was really hard. He's really a hard guy. I knew after the first round that if I got him on the floor, because he was a lot smaller than me, and I could feel there was some wrestling exchange. I took him down and had his back for the last 30, I would say, minutes of the first round. And I just knew that no matter how south things went, if I can grab him, I can take him down. And on the ground, I'm just miles ahead of him. I could feel it. You can feel somebody's strength. I could feel his skill. And I just knew if it hits the deck, I'm winning the fight 100%. And in second round, I went in, not with that mindset at all. I just said, if I get caught with a big punch, if I see I'm behind on points because I knew I won the first round, I'll take this fight down to the ground because that's where I'll get my easiest way to victory.
Yeah.
And, the striking was hard with him because he moved so much. He has really fast hands.
Yeah,
his hands are so fast.
You could see that.
Especially in the first round. So that's why you'll see in that fight, I did a lot of low kicks, kicking the leg. I took away a lot of his speed. In that first round, it was really hard to catch him. Like, he just got out of the way out of everything I threw. In the second round, I could see now I'm starting to catch him. He's slowed down a little. And, he had me backed up against the fence and landed some big shots. But I think he was too comfortable. And
let's just roll that again, Tyler. Just because he did have you, and he
off balance
and boom.
You can't stand there with your hands down.
No, you can't.
You see with the way he fights, his hands is low, so he can move a lot with your hands down low. The big problem with that is you can't be in range with that because with those small gloves and with the big boys in middleweight, if you get caught, it's over.
Yeah, it's over. I mean, there we go. That's another W. I mean, after this, you must be feeling like I'm on top of the world here, guys.
I was like, listen, guys be knowing, people were like, this guy's a crazy striker, this guy has crazy power. And I was like, finally the knockouts are coming. And the knockouts are
you
coming.
even gave it a little brush off.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, knockouts coming. And also because at that stage, I think before this fight, 6 knockouts and 9 submissions. And now it was 7 and 9.
7 and 9.
And I said, okay, now it's getting where I need to be. I'm getting where I need to be. Getting the submissions and the knockouts 50-50. That's a great ratio.
And after that, now in the UFC, you're going, okay, cool. I'm understanding where I fit into this massive machine, because everyone I've spoken to, they said you get looked after incredibly well. I mean, everything's sorted. All you have to worry about is rocking up and fighting.
Yes, absolutely. And another thing was, at the end of the day, that is such a, like you said, a well-oiled machine that you do get looked after very well, but at the end of the day, you have to realize that you're a small piece in that puzzle and you have to do your part.
Yeah.
Just like all the staff of the UFC is incredible. Like everybody, you don't see that with I would say, client service ever.
No.
As I'll walk past somebody that works just with the UFC shirt on, there's thousands of people like this. Everything is sorted. You think, let's say, I used to braid my hair. They would be like, oh, no, the hair braid guy. And I had to look everywhere. We fought in London, where I had to find a salon to do it.
Yeah.
The UFC, they're like, oh, no, that's the hair braid guy. Go to him.
Awesome.
Everything is sorted. But you walk past anybody and I need to go somewhere. I'm not sure where it is. And ask, sorry, do you know where this room is? He doesn't say just left right there. No, he tells you, he says, hello. He's friendly, and he says, let me go show you. We'll turn around, walk you to it. So they have a very, very competent team, and I've spoken with the guys, and when we celebrate afterwards, had some drinks with some of the guys that work for UFC, and they said it is so awesome to work for Dana and the UFC. He demands perfection. They said, listen, it's not an easy work.
Of course.
But he looks after his people, and the UFC looks after you very well. But they expect perfection, and that's why the UFC is doing so great, because they look after their people and they expect nothing other than the best. And that's the same. Yes, those are guys are working with the admin. Where me, I'm a big part of what makes this company, this machine work.
Yeah.
And they trust in me. That's why I've only had big cards. I truly believe that they see my fights and they go, this guy puts up exciting fights. This guy shows up. That is a privilege you get, to be able to get that kind of exposure. I mean, they could have put me on random fight nights.
Yeah, could have been a fight night here and there.
Yeah, exactly. So
but you've just had numbers.
I've only had numbered events after my debut, and that means they like what I'm doing, and I have a responsibility to go out there and perform.
But it genuinely looks like you're enjoying you're loving what you're doing. I mean, I think you're personally a little bit crazy to go in there and fight, but I respect what you do, and it's part of the content of the UFC, and that they can put out these fights that are sold out stadiums wherever they are in the world.
Yeah, and like I said, I only started finding my feet in there very recently. I would say the Brad fight did me so well to go to a decision for the first time in my career.
That was a war, by the way.
That was insane. And getting that ring time in the UFC and in the top 15 with a guy that's had over 21 UFC fights. He's a veteran, and he's fought all the champions, the who is who.
Tough son of a...
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. But at the end of that, I needed that because my first 2 fights were over so quickly that I was still just fighting. I wasn't thinking. I wasn't finding my feet.
Yeah.
Every time I stepped in the UFC cage, I would feel, do I really belong here? How good are these guys? Maybe I got lucky in my first fight. Second fight, maybe 2. I caught that guy. But now I'm fighting guys. I'm fighting Brad Tavaras. So I go in there. I don't know where my place is yet. I don't feel, when I fought in the EFC, when I stepped into that cage, I would feel unstoppable.
You're the main man.
I'm the main man there. Yeah. I know my opponent is scared to fight me. I know my opponent, he can act all tough. I know he's threatened by fighting Dricus du Plessis. I could see it. I could feel it. The crowd was always behind me. I had a home there. That cage in the EFC ring was my kingdom.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that going into the UFC for sure. And the last fight with Darren Till was the first time I actually felt, listen, I belong here.
That's cool.
And I looked at Darren Till, a guy who I admired my whole career coming up. He's one of my favorite fighters. and I looked across the cage and I saw him there, and I was like, holy shit. I'm fighting Darren
That's
Till.
cool.
Probably one of the most famous guys in the whole sport.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, I'm fighting him. This is absolutely amazing.
And you almost finished him early doors.
Exactly. And now I know I belong there. And in that fight was the first time after the Tavaras fight. Because I rated Tavaras very highly. He was on that same card, and I was like, I know I'm going to fight him at some stage, and he is really good everywhere. And after that fight, I said, now these guys know.
That's cool.
No matter what happens,
Let's have a quick look there. Let's have a quick look. Take us through it, because I'm also going to ask you that moment when the floor manager goes, it's time, and you start your walkout, because there's a story, and Cameron let it slip, that you're not allowed to play your walkout song in the gym. Ever, because if it pops up, it's like a switch.
It's a switch. It's a switch, definitely. So
tell us about your walkout song, how you got it, how you chose it.
I don't know how I chose it. I heard the song, and it's not a very famous band. I have a friend who's really into like rock music. I like rock music, and he discovered this band. And listen, they're big in Australia. It's an Australian band, and I guess in the world, but they are not what you would call a mainstream band. So they're like a modern day AC/DC, I would say. They still do the rock and leather pants, no shirts, big speakers behind them when they do their rock shows, and they have this song, and the song is just a perfect fit. And I've walked out with that song. I had from my 4th ever fight. I had 4 different songs, and that was the 4th one. And ever since that's the one. So that song, it gets me so fired up, and if you hear it, it's always it's so perfectly fit for a walkout but I refuse to listen any other ever.
Unless it's go time.
Unless it's go time, because that song means go time. And
so what is this song? Sorry, just for our viewers.
It's called Live It Up by Airborne.
Okay, cool. Live It Up by Airborne. Okay.
Yes, and it's go give it a listen. You'll understand why I chose it.
I'm going to listen now on my way home, but it's funny because apparently it came on the one day in the gym and everyone was like scattered.
Yeah, everybody was like sparring. People was like, put off that music. I have to spar him now. So yeah, it's
amazing.
It's how it should be. You have to have your cues to when switch on, when you switch off. You can't be switched on the whole time. You'll burn out. And you can't be switched off when you get in there, because these guys will make you pay for it.
But you were switched on in this fight.
I was switched on in this fight.
Yeah. Tyler, just roll that a bit there for us.
The first round was so tough in this fight. We had a game plan, and it didn't work.
Yeah, this is the closing sort of it now. And, I mean, respect. That was a war.
Yeah, that was such a war. I mean, that's just...
Look at it. It's a
so
mess.
much blood.
Wow. You just went to town, but he took everything. I mean, you ate. There was knees, there was elbows, there was everything.
So I landed some of the hardest shots that I've ever thrown on him, and I knock out guys bigger than him, heavyweights with 18 or 16 ounce gloves. That's 4 ounce gloves, and I just landed solid knees, solid elbows, solid overhand. I just threw him with everything, and I mean, I dropped him in the end of the second round, and I have a mark here on my knee where I took his tooth out. Yeah, in the second round, I felt something in my knee, and I went, you'll see at the end of the second round, I need him just on the bowel. And I took out his tooth.
No way.
Stuck in my knee. And I looked at it, and I was like, I want to keep it, but I don't have anywhere to put it right now. And I just threw it on the canvas. I had his tooth on my knee.
That's insane. But a tough dude.
Tough
mad
dude,
respect.
It's crazy respect for him.
Did you guys have a beer afterwards?
We did not, but I actually saw him now again when I was at the PI. Okay. He was preparing for a fight, and we had a nice talk. And he's a really nice guy.
Has he healed up? Because
he's healed up. He was supposed to fight now. I couldn't believe how good his face looked after. I thought that guy is getting some sort of surgery, because his face looked terrible.
Yeah. But this is another moment. I mean, this must feel incredible.
This is the first time ever going to decision, so I wasn't really comfortable with waiting for the results. I was like, what do I do now? Because but what's great is I didn't have any doubt that I won that fight. Yeah. I knew I won. I knew I lost the first round, and I definitely knew I won.
There's a man who's played a huge role in your career. Eh?
The biggest role. I mean, the only coach I've ever had, the man that taught me everything I know.
Yeah. And then obviously meeting someone you idolize. I mean...
Yeah, meeting Joe Rogan. This is the second time speaking to Joe Rogan. It's the first time I was just so starstruck when I met him. I didn't even listen to the questions he asked me. I was just like, it's so cool to meet you, Joe Rogan.
I could tell that.
Yeah.
but it's buzzing.
Yeah, so I mean...
No, it's great, man.
It's been such a awesome journey.
Yeah, look there. That's 5. You won a 5 fight win streak there.
Yeah.
7-2, and then the big dog Darren Till was floating around.
Wow, yeah, I mean that was a good
something
fight.
else, eh?
That was great. It's when they first, I always knew I was gonna. We always, because Cameron is also a big fan. We will give him a lot of trouble for it. He's a big fan of Darren Till, and
Okay.
so one time we asked Henny asked him, the team manager, he asked him, "Who's your favorite middleweight fighter?" And he said, "This was before I was in the UFC." And he said, Darren Till. He thinks Darren Till is his favorite. And he asked Henny, "And you?" And Henny said, "Dricus. I think Dricus." And everybody looked at Cameron. And Cameron was like, "I thought you said in the UFC." And he was like, no. And they just the team couldn't wait to tell me.
Oh, wow.
You wouldn't believe what Cameron said. Cameron said, "Darren Till will beat your ass."
Wow.
And he's like, "I didn't say that." And they're like, "Well, he's your favorite fighter. Dricus is mine.
Yeah.
Is our favorite fighter."
Here we go.
And so I was always like, Cameron, we made so many jokes in camp saying, Cameron, whenever I spar, Cameron has to go out. When we do new techniques for game plan for the fight, Cameron has to go outside because I know he's going to fool me and he's going to send it to Darren Till because he wants Darren to win. He put his money on Darren. So, but yeah, I mean, fighting that fight is absolutely amazing. It was my breakthrough. I think that was a big test. He was a gatekeeper at the stage where he's now, and people were very much looking forward to his return after training with Kamzat.
They almost, him and Kamzat are so close and hanging out.
And people were like, cool.
Dricus is just going to be a speed bump.
That's exactly
sort of
it. And I think that's why they took this fight. Darren was like, cool, I don't want to fight any killer right now. I'm going to fight this random guy from South Africa.
Clearly he doesn't know.
Yeah, this random guy from South Africa and get back in the winning column. And that's why they took that fight so easily. And obviously thinking I'm a striker, and they've been training wrestling. And with this fight, I wanted to prove a point because in the Brad Tavaras fight, I screwed up my wrestling a little. I landed on my back, and I told Daniel Cormier in the fighters meeting before the Till fight, listen, watch out, I'll show you that I can wrestle. And I had to make sure. Darren Till, yes, his wrestling is not the greatest, but he's been working on it, obviously, training with Kamzat for 2 years. And then, of course, Robert Whittaker fought 5 rounds with Till. Robert Whittaker considered a very good wrestler in the division.
The Reaper?
Yes, he's probably one of the best fighters in the division. He had 4 takedown attempts on Till, and he landed 1. 4 or 5 takedowns. He landed 1. He had 3 seconds of control time, and Darren was back up to his feet. And Darren stuffed every other takedown. And I had 6 out of 6 takedowns on Darren. So every one I attempted, I landed. And that just gave me, once again, because you look at these guys on TV growing up and, idolizing these guys. And now I'm fighting. I'm not only fighting in the middleweight division now. These are the guys that I'm fighting within the next year.
Yeah.
I'm the top 5 right now. I'm fighting top 5 guys, contenders.
This is a business end.
So this is and now that gives me I feel, hey, that's a tap on my shoulder saying, Whittaker couldn't take him down every time. You could only take him down once. I took him down 6 times out of 6. Derek Brunson tried to take him down 6 times. He only landed 2. So it gives me a certain sense of I do belong here, and I have something to give these top dogs, and that's a beating.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
So that's.
Did you think? And unfortunately, we don't have the Till fight, but did you think? Because a lot of people like that first round, that early exchange, it was done. It was over.
I was shocked. I grabbed him because leading up to the fight, I said a lot of times, okay, he's too small for a middleweight, and he was too small for middleweight. He's not strong enough, and there was a lot of mind games in that. When I saw him in the cage, I realized he's definitely not a middleweight. But when I grabbed him, I didn't expect that to happen. We didn't even plan on a quick early wrestling exchange at all. It just happened in the fight. And I grabbed him and I started punching him, and I was like, okay, he's probably going to do this, and he didn't do it. And then he tried, and I was like, where did the strength come from? And I probably got some adrenaline strength there. And he couldn't move. He couldn't get out. And I landed a punch, and I was like, this can't be. He's setting me up for something. And I landed 1 punch, 2 punches.
Is that going through your mind the whole time?
100%. The first few punches, I was like, what is he doing?
Yeah.
Because this is not like, this
he's
can't
just
be what
taking
he's doing.
shots.
He's just taking shots. And after like 5 or 6 shots, the ref goes, improve your position. That's a warning that comes before. I'm going to stop the fight.
Yes.
And I said, okay, well, this is great. And I started going for it. And then I caught him with a big punch. I could feel the punch, and he went I buckled his knees, and I was like, and the ref went, improve your position, I'm going to stop the fight. And that's a final warning. And I just went for it. And I'm glad they didn't stop the fight because that would have been a controversial stoppage.
Yes, yeah.
And I could feel Darren was still in it the whole time. I buckled his knees maybe 2 or 3 times during where I caught him with big punches. I landed 60 punches. So
it was one-way traffic.
People are like, okay, cool. You blew your load a little in that first round. I'm like, you can't say that I did it. Like I wasn't stupid. I wasn't overexcited.
Yeah.
The ref was warning this guy that he's going to stop the fight. You have to go for the finish.
Exactly.
Then. So obviously a very 10-8 round for that first round. Then second round came out. I don't know if it was the quick adrenaline spike from that first round. If it was something went wrong, I have no idea what it was, or maybe it was, I don't know. But my legs, I didn't feel tired in that second round. My legs it felt swollen. I felt so slow. My legs felt wobbly, and I just realized Darren caught me with a big elbow, and I thought, okay, he doesn't have that much punching power.
Yeah,
that's good. I'm better off taking a few shots now and concentrating on recovering than trying to fight this guy.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I just remained. I would have liked not to take so many punches, but he started landing. His striking is really world class. He's one of the best strikers in the world. And what happened? He caught me with a big 1-2, and at that moment, and he landed straight on my jaw. His left hand is very, very fast, and he landed straight on my jaw. And I just realized there's no way he can knock me out. I'm very tired and unstable on my feet right now.
Yeah.
And he landed 2 or 3 big shots, and I wasn't wobbled at all. It didn't bother me. And I said, well, this is great news, because if he was a big puncher, I would have been in trouble right now. And I was like, I'm going to recover. I'm going to use this time to recover, because there's no way he knocks me out.
Yeah.
And it took me about 2.5 minutes of that second round, and then I got that takedown again, and things got back. Third round, I was back on track, and I could see the pressure was taking its toll. Third round, I felt great. I got in there. Listen, after that second round, I was sitting in the corner, and my coach was like, listen, you have to finish this fight now. And I was like,
I'm sure he said it in a different way.
Yeah, he said it in a different way. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try. I don't want to be here for another 5 minutes.
No.
And as the round progressed, after the first minute in the third round, I could feel my energy being back. I felt, now. And that's when he started fading. And
the submission came.
I got that takedown. That's when the stand-up exchanges also started catching him a lot in that third round. I was taking the lead. And I could almost see in his face, he acknowledged one of my punches that was really hard. One of my punches, he nodded his head. And I could see that was not a nod of, wow, nice punch. It was more of a nod of, fine, you win.
Yeah,
I could see it in his eyes, the way his body language, how he retreated, and how he said, well done. It was almost like, okay, fine, you win the fight. And the takedown and the submission was basically just putting the cherry on top.
Yeah. No, it was impressive, man. And that was yet another win. And that sets up now, March 4th, is a massive fight against Derek Brunson. What are you expecting from this guy? Because he's been around a long time. He's a dangerous athlete. He's in the top ranks of your weight division. And he's a guy you need to get past if you are to continue your upward trajectory.
Yes, absolutely. I've trained with him at Sanford, with Henry Hooft. And
so you know the guy.
I know him very well. But he's a nice guy. And make no mistake, Derek Brunson, a lot of people almost writing him off in this fight, I feel, just because he's older, he's 39 years old, so he's at the back end of his career, and he's probably going to retire, maybe after this, maybe not, but soon. But people are like, Jared Cannonier destroyed him, Blonde Brunson was this. And I'm like, okay, Jared Cannonier is the number 3 ranked.
I was about to say.
He's no joke. Nobody else has beaten Cannonier except for Whitaker, with a decision and the champion. Cannonier is a badass guy. Yeah. He went 5 rounds with the champion recently, and I mean Brunson has only lost to Izzy, went on a 8-fight win streak, fought number 1 contender and lost to Cannonier in the second round, where he won the first round.
He did.
He convincingly dropped him, and he took him down 2 or 3 times. So people are like, Brunson is a washed-up fighter. I'm like, he's no washed-up fighter. He's no washed-up fighter. He is, if you look at his fights, that guy goes in all in. There's a lot of holes in his game. His wrestling is extremely well. He hasn't been taken down in the UFC. He fought Olympic gold medalist Yoel Romero. Took Yoel down 4 times. Yoel had 5 attempts on him, couldn't take him down once.
Yeah.
I mean, That is insane. So that says a lot. The man can wrestle and he's really good at it. And when he's on top, he was 37, 38 years old fighting the youngster Edmund Shabajan. He had people who were making so much hype. I think he's 23 or 24 years old. This guy was killing everyone, and Brunson just mauled him.
Put him away.
It wasn't even a fight. It looked like the guy didn't belong there.
Yeah.
So I'm not underestimating him at all. He's number 5 in the world for a very, very good reason. And once again, this is a big test for me. They've given me strikers, a lot of them, from Giles to Till and Tavaras, all strikers. I think this is a big test for me. They want to see how diverse my game is, and this is where I'm going to shock them.
Your wrestling is...
I'm excited to prove it. I'm excited to prove it. I'm excited to show them that if you thought my striking was something to be worried about, watch until you see this. And
so I've been having a conversation with a few of my mates about your path. We're all convinced, and I'd touch wood, we're convinced this is probably the best opportunity for you to get middleweight gold, because Izzy isn't in a good space from what I've seen. The last performance has clearly rocked the boat. There's lost to Pereira. For you, get past Brunson. All of a sudden, you're in that number 1 contender sort of space. And all of a sudden, that goal, that dream is not far away.
100%. I always said I want to be UFC champion before the age of 30. I'm 29 now. And that's when the new year came. I said 2023, I will be the UFC champion. After this fight, I have no doubt I'm going to fight for number 1 contender spot. I honestly believe that I saw Kamzat coming into conversation now. I don't see why Kamzat is even in close with a... Yes, Kamzat is a good fighter. But who has he fought? He hasn't even fought a ranked opponent at middleweight.
No.
Not one.
What was the Burns fight? That's
welterweight.
Exactly.
Yes, and honestly, I don't think he won that fight. But now they want him to fight Robert Whittaker. I'm happy with that. That'll be a great fight.
It'll be a great fight.
So after this, I'll probably fight... I think the loser of Izzy and Pereira is not getting an immediate contender fight. They're probably fighting somebody else. And I'll probably fight the winner of Kamzat and Whittaker next.
that's amazing.
That's where the talks are. And after that, there's no denying the fact that I'm fighting for the belt after that. So it's this fight, another fight. So within the next 3 fights, I'll be fighting for the belt. I'm 100% certain of it. I have this feeling in me that, and big chance it's going to be in South Africa.
That would be amazing.
That's the dream. That's what I set out in the universe. That's what I'm telling myself. After doing what I've done, there's no denying why would you have this fight anywhere else than the South Africa. Yeah. The guy that's
an altitude would be nice.
Altitude will be great. Those guys are going to have a terrible time. Yeah. They'll have a terrible time over here.
Dricus, we've got to wrap up soon, but quickly, I was blown away. And just to get back to the CIT professionalism, your sleep cycle stuff.
Yeah.
How tough is that? Because I know when Cameron was preparing, it was like up at a certain hour, then sleeping at a certain hour.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, when every fight, we realized we have to do this. It's something that luckily we thought about. And you'll be surprised how little people do it. Champions. I speak to the conditioning guys at the PI, the guys that go, the UFC's guy, the guys that do your foods, your nutritionists, everything. And he says, when I told him we did it, and he was so shocked. He was like, wow, somebody that actually did that. He says champions rock up there, fight week, sleep schedule completely screwed because they didn't even think about it. Here we are, and that's why I say professionalism. We cover all corners. And we work out. I fought the first fight on the main card, my last fight. I think that was 3 a.m. 3 o'clock in the morning in South Africa.
Yeah.
So that means my body needs to peak at that stage, because if you fly over there, your body 3 a.m. 8 o'clock at night, your body still thinks it's 3 a.m.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. So we start 2 weeks out from the fight. We start adjusting our sleep. So I'll train, and that's where, once again, the team, the family, the people, the whole team rocks up there. Coach Monet Visser rocks up there. training partners rock up there, cornermen rock up there. Everybody comes, even the guys that don't train. They comes, they support, they rock up there, all sleepy. Wake up. Cameron has to be there at 1 because he fights earlier.
Yeah.
Trains at 1, goes his fight distance. Everybody waits around. I come there. Rock up there at 2, warm up, get my body peaking at 3 a.m., train from 3 to 4, then go back home, and then we sleep. So the big problem with that is there's so much stuff to do during the day. You have to get everything sorted for traveling, but now you're sleeping the whole day because you have to stay awake. You can't sleep, wake up, and then go train because that's not how you're going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be sleeping before the fight. So my whole day and night completely switches, and I'm a people's person. I get bored very quickly. So now I'm sitting there throughout the whole night alone, and I'm forcing my brother, my friends. I'm like, you have to stay up with me. He's like, I'm working tomorrow. There's no way I'm staying up with you. But it's part of what we have to do because we have such a massive time difference between South Africa and, well, anywhere else in the world.
And you've got a huge opportunity, and I wish you all the best, Dricus. March the 4th, 285. It's a huge number. I wish you all the best, and thanks for coming in and the incredible work you've done. Thank you for always being available. Thank you for bringing back my UFC walkout hoodie from Vegas when you're done. That's still sitting in Vegas.
I
I'll talk to you about that.
Yeah, for sure.
But thanks very much, and good luck. Travel safe.
Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for the support, and I'm definitely bringing that win back home for us.
Awesome. Dricus, thanks for your time.
Have
and
a good one.
Chat again. Thank you.
Cheers.